And now, one thing what I should tell you is that Lars and Sven and me, we was around visiting, and by golly, if we wasn't start the visiting, we start talking about what we're doing for a living, and well, we're all carpenters, and Lars, he starts talking first, and he says, boys, he says, I'm a carpenter, and he says, I've been now dang near all my life, and inside I'm going to build an outhouse, and he says, it wasn't going to be ordinary, going to have shingles on the roof, and a cement foundation, little quarter mean on the door, and he says, it was a one-holer, had the rack there for the AC and penny catalog, he says, and the roller there for the arm and tissue, and he says, by golly, he says, it was a dang good job, so I decided to try it out for my first time myself. So he says, I dropped my cover overalls and I squeezed one out and counted to 132 before I heard her go plop. Well, then Sven, he says, well, boys, he says, I too am a carpenter, and I too decided to build an outhouse, and he says, it too wasn't going to be ordinary. He says, going to have shingles on the roof and a cement foundation, little quarter moon on the door, he says, but it was a two-holer, had two rack sheets for the AC and penny and the Montgomery Ward's catalogs, and had the two roller seats for the Sherman tissue, and he says, by golly, he says, it was a dang good job, so I decided to try it out for the first time myself. So he says, I dropped my cover overalls and I squeezed one out and counted to 154 before I heard her go plop. Well, he was feeling kind of like king crab, so to speak. And poor Lars, he was down in the dumps, and so I said, well, boys, I says, I too am a carpenter, and Lena, she's telling me she's tired of squatting in the woods, so I got to have a place to go. And I too decided to build an outhouse, and it too wasn't going to be ordinary, going to have shingles on the roof and a cement foundation, little quarter moon on the door, but it was a three-holer, because, the mother-in-law, she's over for upper quite often, and the way Lena cooks, if everybody got to go at once, if you got to shuffle for a hole, somebody's going to get messy. So I made it a three-holer. It had the three rack sheets for the AC and penny and the Montgomery Wards and the Sears and the Roebuck catalogs. Had the three roller seats for the Sherman tissue. And I thought, by golly, Sam, she's a dang good job. So I decided to try it out for the first time myself. So I dropped my cover overalls and I squeezed one out and counted to 5,432. Well, still she didn't go plop, but Lena, she's calling me in for helper, So I decided to find out what's going on. I looked down the hole. Here the damn thing was caught on my suspender. I think that's enough of that. Thank you very much. I'm done.
I saw a few other life members like that this morning.